Hello? Hello? How you doing? My camera's a little off. Let me actually, my camera go up a little bit here. So ladies and gentlemen, hello and how you doing? Today is Thursday, October 8th, 2020. I'm Darkside Phil, and I welcome you to Ask the King. This is the first episode of Ask the King that I've done in over 3 months because I've been so busy with game releases over the summer because this year has been such a different kind of year for gaming with the COVID pandemic screwing all the game release schedule up. Typically the summer is so slow, but this summer was really chock full of new releases. I mean, Ghost of Tsushima took us, almost a month to beat. We had ongoing playthroughs that just took forever. So because of that, I really didn't have time, no downtime to really do the show. Normally it would have been kind of in September, but I delayed it a few weeks. So here we are in early October, and I finally decided to get around to it. Now, again, we're going to have this discussion. Do you guys out there feel that Ask the King should still be an ongoing show? The reason I have to pose this question is because we talk every day on stream. Every single day there's a pre-stream. We have discussions during the live streams of gameplay. We have this kind of a deal every day. And some people have even expressed their opinion. They're like, Phil, you got a $20 patron perk where if people pledge $20, they get their question answered on Ask the King. But don't they do that every day on stream? And the answer is, well, yeah, people ask me questions every day on stream. There's no guarantee that I'm going to give them a lengthy answer to anything, though. When you pledge to my Patreon on Ask the King, I will give you a huge answer to your question, dedicated segment of time on a show dedicated just for answering questions. But that being said, this year, I think I've had 2 questions asked by patrons. This show, none. So I definitely think that this format, okay, this format for Ask the King, it's not necessarily, it's not mandatory anymore. But I'm okay with doing it. I'm okay with continuing the show. I realize that Ask the King is one of my longest running shows in history. This is episode, I think, 84, either 83 or 84 of the show. And that's crazy. This has been running since what, like 2010, 2011? Almost a decade, if not a decade at this point. So I understand that there are people who've been around for a long time who love the idea of the show, the fact that I've got a legacy show from my old content days that I still do in the modern era. All right? I get that. But ideally, does it make sense to do the show? I don't know. Someone proposed to me this week, instead of doing it like this format where I just answer your questions in a dedicated video or stream, that instead I do it as a segment every couple of months when I do a special marathon event. So, for example, I just did a Rage-a-thon. This month, I'm doing a Halloween marathon. Maybe I could take an hour out of those marathons to answer your questions. Maybe. I don't know. I need your feedback. By all means, feel free to give me your feedback. Do you think Ask the King is something that has an essential purpose and should continue to happen moving forward? Or do you feel the show is outdated? I'll be honest with everyone. Getting people to ask questions for the show can be like pulling teeth sometimes. There was a rush of questions asked last minute because I asked people to post up questions last minute for it because almost no one had. And I did my best, as usual, to pick the most entertaining questions or questions that I felt would make a good show for you guys. We'll see how it turns out today. This may be a shorter show depending on my answers or whatever. We'll have to see what happens, okay? So let's see. Let's give me your feedback. As always, the way the show goes is, number one, I answer questions from my forums. Then I answer questions from people who tweeted me today over at They Call Me DSP on Twitter. And then at the end of the show, if there's time, I take questions live from the stream chat. Now, if you guys contribute during the stream, I am going to do a live shout out during the show. But if you're posing a question in that contribution, I may save that question for the end segment of the show where we answer questions from live viewers. So we'll see what happens with that as well. And maybe I have time to interject it, but I'm going to be focusing primarily on these questions. Now, this stream is just like a normal stream. By all means, guys, if you want to help out, please contribute. The best way is right here, sending me a tip right down there. I need the help this week because I got a ridiculous amount of chargebacks this week, which completely screwed me over. If you're watching this show on demand on YouTube, not live, please, if you like the show, please consider supporting it with a tip. I need the help this week. If I can get through this week, I should be all right, but it sucks that I just had so many chargebacks in 1 week. And hopefully now I've put these protections in place that people should not be able to be doing these anonymous express checkout tips anymore that are fake. So hopefully moving forward, I can trust the tips to be real. We'll find out, all right? But for now, let's see what happens, okay? All right, let's get started with Ask the King. We start off with forum questions, as I said. Now, normally I would be patron questions. There haven't been patron questions in a long time. So we're just going to start with a question from Jeff Bezos Right Nut. And he asked a question that for some people might think is personal or insulting. I don't actually feel it's personal or insulting because the guy asked in a very respectful manner. So I'm going to answer the question in a very respectful manner. Okay? He says, if you ever start going bald, would you rather shave it all off or deal with a bald spot and receding hairline? Or maybe try one of those hair growth treatments. Okay? First off, I am losing some of my hair. And I know I am as I get older. I'm 38 years old. And I realize that as I get older, this is going to happen. If you take a look at my hairline, it's not even. Right here, this side, I'm losing way more hair than this side. Now, actually, I've noticed on this side, it's actually started to lose a little bit recently, too. So I'm going to turn into Vegeta, essentially. I'm going to have this fucking weird hairline here, and then the hair is going to start going up like this. It's going to look really weird, okay? In addition, the back of my head, I have a patch right here that's had lighter hair, like, forever. Like, even when I was young, I was told at the back of my head, I had a patch of hair right here that actually had less hair than the rest of my head. Now, the thing is, I've had a crew cut from the late high school days all the way through until 2010. And in 2010, I decided to grow my hair out and have it long like this for the last decade. So it wasn't until then that I realized that I actually had that lighter patch of hair back here again. Okay? There's nothing much I could do about this. You get older, this shit happens. Your hairline will recede. You'll have less hair. What am I going to do? Ultimately, I don't care. I'm being honest here. Ultimately, I don't give two shits. I don't. If I go back to a crew cut, I go back to a crew cut. If I go bald, I go bald. If I actually try to make the hair grow evenly again through hair treatments, which they have, maybe I'll do that. I don't care. I really don't give two shits. It's really about my wife. My wife is the person who has to see me all day long. My wife is the person who cares about how I look. So if she says, oh, try to fix the hair, I will. If she says, leave it be, I will. If she says, shave it off, I will. I don't care. It's just like people ask me about my beard. They say, Phil, your beard's all patchy. Like, actually, my beard isn't patchy. My beard is growing at the same rate it was 10 years ago when I first started growing it. But most of my beard hairs are now white. And you guys on camera see how white this looks? But it looks, oh, it's patchy. It's actually not. This is all white hair. So on the camera, it catches in a way that makes it look almost transparent. But it's really just all white hairs. Do I need to dye the hairs black? No, I don't care. I don't fucking care. I don't give two shits. But if my wife says, oh, I don't like how that looks, dye it, I will. Or she says, you know what? It's not really working anymore because it's all white. Shave it off. I will. It's really up to her, not up to me. She's the one who has to see it all day, every day, not me. So it's her call. As of right now, everything seems to be all right, and no one's really saying anything. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't really care, so I'll leave it as is until one day she makes a decision and she says, I like this or like that, then I would do it. I don't care. I've always been like, I don't give a shit. It's like the least important thing to me. When I wake up in the morning, I just don't care. It's not a big deal. And it's funny because in the last few years, as you know, as I've become a full-time streamer, and I now need to have a webcam on constantly. Oh, I gotta wake up, I gotta brush my hair for streaming. Before then, I didn't at all. I would come to stream with fucking hair going wild and shit. I didn't care. I'm just a normal dude, right? I don't care about that shit. You're certainly never going to be able to accuse me of being a metrosexual. All right. Okay. Next question from 100 Gex. Now, this is a question that I've been asked over the years. I'll answer it again in the best way that I can. All right. He says, if you were to instantly be granted $100 million today, with no strings attached, how would you spend it? Presumably, you'd fix your tax situation. After that, what would you do? Would you continue streaming and stream less often? I often find it fun to daydream about the scenario. Well, if I were to make $100 million, no strings attached, that would mean no taxes or maybe post-tax or whatever. $100 million is insane amount of money. It's way more than anyone would ever need to live. Seriously, it is. It's just exorbitant amounts of money. So I can tell you right now, yes, obviously the first thing I would do, any debt, any existing debt that I have, pay off my back taxes, pay off this house, pay off my car. I would ask my parents, what debts do you have? Obviously, my wife, to pay off any debts that she has. Pay off all debts with myself and my family, direct family members would be immediately paid off. That's number one. Number two, I would likely donate a lot of it. Because once everything's paid off and I see how much I actually have, I'd probably look at it and say, okay, I have this much money. I really don't need that much money. $100 million is a ridiculous amount of money. So I would probably just go ahead and donate a bunch of it. Now, where would I donate it? I don't know, because when you have that much money, you actually can make a big impact to something, a ginormous positive impact. So I would want to actually look into, charities and things, find one that's legit, find one that I feel would be super beneficial for me to contribute to, and I would probably do a big, or maybe multiple contributions, split it up and do a contribution here, there, and help a bunch of charities or whatever. Okay. Now, in addition to that, what I would do is invest, and what I mean by that is I would try to diversify. Even though I love being a streamer, and I've said this a million times, if I won the lottery today, I would still stream. Would I stream in the capacity I do now, 6 days a week full time? No. I would probably stream 3-4 times a week, way more casual time frame. It wouldn't be super strict having to stream, 4 hours of gameplay, one stream, 2 to 3 hours of the other. I probably would be more laid back and relaxed, play way less games. But I love doing this. I love having the interactions we have. I tell you right now, I'd immediately turn off all contributions. You guys would not be able to contribute crowdfunding whatsoever because I wouldn't need the money. I would tell you guys, go donate to a cause or do this or that and do something worthwhile with your money, then donate to me. Okay? And then, of course, I would invest. Like I said, I would probably have some kind of savings, but in addition to that, I would invest. Maybe I would buy some, like I've talked about, buy some franchises, have some businesses out here in my name. That's a different way to make money besides just streaming. Maybe finally do that restaurant that I've been talking about for how many years now. Do my own restaurant where I can have this cool thing that's not online related, a real brick and mortar business that I can sink and invest into, maybe become a staple out here, because there are almost no good Italian restaurants out here. There's one that's kind of crappy. It's like a fusion restaurant that's not good. There's one that's pretty good, but bad location in my opinion. And there's one that's Americanized Italian food that's not really authentic. It's still good, but it's not authentic. I could do like an authentic Italian restaurant. I would probably want to do something like that. So anyway, that's the bottom line. I would, number one, pay off all existing debts for myself and all my family members. Number two, I would probably donate a ton of money. And number three, I would probably have a savings and invest a bunch of money into things outside of streaming. So that way I've diversified my assets. Okay? Fair enough? Okay. Chloe asks, I was wondering if you had not pursued a career with YouTube or Twitch, is there any career path you would have chosen and why? The thing is, Chloe, my life's been chaotic. My life was not pre-planned. I'm not one of those people who, like, when I was growing up, I said, I absolutely want to do this for a living no matter what, and I'm going to do everything I can to live up to that goal, whether it's years of schooling and, internships or whatever. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was the valedictorian of my high school, but I wasn't accepted to any of, like, the big-name colleges, despite the fact that I had a straight-A record, extracurriculars. Why? Because I was white and I didn't have money. So if you're white and you don't have money to actually outright pay to go to one of those top colleges in the United States, you don't get accepted. It's that simple. If you're going to need financial aid, you don't get accepted to those colleges. So because I didn't know someone at those colleges to get my foot in the door, I had to go to decent colleges. I mean, I went to Fairfield University. It's known as a pretty good college. But I didn't have any, let me put it this way. I didn't have any way to get networking so that I could get a job out of college. I started off college, I wanted to do a computer science major because that was the 90s, was the big heightened tech stuff. That was when the websites were exploding, internet businesses were exploding. And then when I was in college, literally the tech bubble burst and all the jobs vanished in the job market for computer science. In addition, the teachers they had there for computer science were absolutely god-awful and couldn't teach to save their lives. They were really good coders, but they couldn't actually relay that knowledge of how to actually code to the students. I came in with no knowledge of computer coding at all, and the guy couldn't teach me basic shit. Meanwhile, kids who were coming in who had previous years of experience were telling me, yeah, you needed to come into this school with previous experience because he hasn't explained any base level shit. He just expects you know everything, but it's just bullshit. I'm going to college to learn computer programming. Why do I already need to know computer programming? Dumb shit, right? So I changed my major in college from computer programming over to business and then eventually a major in finance. Unbeknownst to me, all right, to really get a job in finance, you needed to know someone. Just like to get into a good college, you needed to know someone to get into a job in finance. So here I am working in college, all right, and I'm busting my ass just to make ends meet. I'm working a full-time job during college to pay for college. So I have no free time. I'm all day, every day I'm either working or I'm in class, and then weekends, maybe I get one day a week where I get to actually go like play Street Fighter or go to a tournament or something, right? Which was my hobby. That was my life during my 4 college years. I didn't have tons of free time to spend with friends or anything. I was working my ass off. So how was I supposed to then get experience or get networking skills so I could get a job when I graduated from college. Maybe if I was filthy rich, right, and I didn't have to work during college, I would have had tons of free time and I could have done internships and all kinds of shit. I wasn't given that opportunity. So when I graduated from college, no one would hire me for a finance job. So I ended up working at a company that I thought was a finance job, but it wasn't. It was predatory lending, lending mortgages and credit cards to families with horrible credit scores who don't know how to manage their finances, and basically giving them insanely high loan-to-value loans. Imagine you already are terrible with money, and a company latches onto that and gives you a 95% loan-to-value loan on your home. What that means is that, let's say your home's worth $100,000, they would give you a loan for $95,000 against your house. You have no equity, nothing. You own nothing, essentially, okay? That's what we were doing. It was predatory lending in the hopes they would default and we would steal a house. That's what my company was that I was working for. So after working for them for a year and having issues with that, I went and worked for Best Buy for Business. Now, I've told that story a million times, right? How they hired me to be someone who knows technology and is going to sell technology to small business owners, but they didn't actually follow through. And within 8 months of working there, they were trying to get rid of the whole program, and they framed me and fired me, lying to get me out of the company so that I wouldn't be paid anymore the big money that they were basically paying me, way more than the line level person in the store, for a team that was a failure. So that didn't work out. Then I went to work for a helicopter company, all right, which my dad currently was working at the time. I get in as a customer service rep, and within 2 years, they recognize that they want me to do more than just being a customer service rep, because I'm a leader in the company and I go above and beyond. So they put me into continuous improvement work, which means that they're training me to do this process by which I look at a company, how they work from start to finish, and I look at a certain process that company does that basically they feel needs improvement. Maybe it's too slow, it's not profitable enough, there's bottlenecks and holdups, and I would map out that process, finding the points that need improvement, bring in the employees who do those processes, redesign those processes from the ground up, improve them, roll out the changes, and now measure with metrics the improvements to the business. This is what I was trained to do, and I did it for 2 years. And after completely redesigning the repairs process of this helicopter company from start to finish, and actually not only improving it, but making them get more money for it, they laid me off. They never paid me for it. They paid me as a customer service rep for 4 years, but had me for 2 of those years doing continuous improvement work, never paid me $1 to fucking do it, and then laid me off after the fact. That's my employment history. Like, you see what I mean? With that history, how could I ever have planned on wanting to do something with my life? My life has been chaotic, going from job to job, being mistreated at every job, being treated like a piece of data on a spreadsheet rather than a human. Every major company I've ever worked for mistreated me. So how could I possibly say I had a roadmap of what I wanted to do if I wasn't a YouTube streamer or content creator? I never wanted to be a YouTube streamer or content creator. This fell into my lap as something to do when I was laid off from my job at that helicopter company. I would have loved to be a person who had a roadmap. And this was a stable roadmap of something that I could have done my whole life, and I would have never had the chaotic uncertainty that I had for my whole life. It just never happened. In fact, as crazy as it sounds, all right, as crazy as it sounds, this job that I'm doing now is the most stable job I've ever had in my life. What? Yes, even with YouTube falling apart, the destruction of my YouTube channels, the adpocalypse, all the fake shit that happens to me on a daily basis, like false DMCA claims, slander about me all over the internet, all the shit that affects me daily, chargebacks, all that stress and nonsense, this job is still the most consistent and stable job I've ever had in my entire fucking life. I've been doing this for 10 years. Right? I've been doing this for 10 years. 10 years. I've never done another job in my life for 10 years. Even though this job has evolved, for sure, right? At first, I was just doing videos offline, dicking around. Then I did co-op videos with people. Then I started branching out and doing other things like reviews of food, reviews of games, commentary videos on other things outside of gameplay. Then I did like something creative like Project 7. Then I got into the direct capture live streaming shtick. For 3.5 years now, I've been a full-time live streamer, and I put out way different content than I used to. Yes, I've evolved, but I'm still doing the same thing. I'm my own boss. I'm putting out gameplay and entertaining content for you guys on a daily basis, and this has been the most consistent thing I've ever done in my life. It's crazy, because I played that game. I went through high school and college intending to get a job and just have that be my career. I played by the rules, what my parents wanted me to do, and everyone told me this is what you should do in America to become successful. And I was mistreated, I was dumped, fired, laid off, and treated like shit everywhere I went. They just didn't care about anyone who actually wanted to work hard. They wanted someone who was basically a pushover or a kiss ass. And I'm never, you know, guys know me, I've never been one of those things in my whole life. It's one of the reasons why you won't see me getting the Xbox Series X Advanced Console preview, because no one's going to send me that shit, because I'm not going to kiss Microsoft's fucking ass. You know, I don't do that shit. I'm an honest guy. I have been my whole life. So, no. Chloe, I couldn't tell you what career could I have pursued if I didn't do YouTube or Twitch. I don't know. I would have been happy if, when I was at that helicopter company, if they had actually come through with their promises. It's after 2 years of doing work above and beyond what I was expected to do as a customer service rep. If I was actually treated nicely and I was given a job as continuous improvement, and I would have loved to do that work. I actually enjoyed that work when I did it. And I actually really liked seeing how the hard work that I put in improved a business overall and made them more profitable. Right? But then the company decided that, oh, we don't give a fuck that he did that, and dumped me. Like I said, within a 2-month period, the repairs process was improved. They started immediately seeing improvement in turn times and profitability of that program. They gave me a award. It was above and beyond the Call of Duty award. Big document they gave me. No money involved, but just an award. There was a presentation for it and everything. Congratulations, Phil, for going above and beyond and redesigning our repairs process. And then in 2 months, they shifted me to another department, said, we have no work for you, and laid me off. So that's what I mean. I would have loved to keep doing that. But that's how they treated me, you know? It is what it is, I guess. That's American corporate culture. They don't give two fucks about the employees. It's rare in America where you find a company that actually cares about its employees and will treat them properly. And to them, you're just a number on a spreadsheet. You're just a cog in a big wheel, a big machine. You know what I mean? And they will dispose of you whenever they feel like it. You did good work for us, now get the fuck out. They did the same thing with my dad. My dad was busting his ass doing continuous improvement work for them, and they laid him off too. So, it is what it is. All right, continuing on. Eternal Napalm says, what are some of the best game soundtracks you've ever heard? Which ones resonated with you beyond your time playing the game? For me, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s, right? So when I think classic game soundtracks, Super Mario Brothers, that music is going to stick with my head forever, of course. Zelda, for me, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, because that was my first major Zelda game that I played from start to finish, and I played it a billion times because I loved it so much. So that music, of course, the soundtrack of Street Fighter 2 is the soundtrack I've heard most in my life. Seriously, like, I've played more of any video game. It's been Street Fighter 2 more than any other game, and I've heard that soundtrack more than any other game in history. So Street Fighter 2 has to be up there. Of course, then I have to go with the classic RPGs that I grew up with, like Final Fantasy 4 and 6, Chrono Trigger. Those, you know, those soundtracks are so, like, every time I hear those music, I get pumped, I get excited, because I feel like back to my childhood sitting around playing fun JRPGs, you know. So that would be my music. Now, of course, there's been amazing games with amazing soundtracks. So the first Mass Effect comes to mind. Blue Dragon comes to mind. You know, games like that, I can say, wow, those are soundtracks that'll stand out forever or whatever. The Uncharted theme, the title theme from Uncharted is so amazing. But for me, when you ask me about music and games, I'm always going to go back to those classics that I grew up with, okay? All right, let's shift over, and let's actually do a few cheers, and then we'll shift back to the forum questions. So, Black Mage C-Type did a 101-bit cheer, biggest cheer of the day so far. Says, I don't know about Ask the King, but I asked fans to vote for Barry Burton and Corpse Killer 25th Anniversary Edition on the King of Hate forums. Make Halloween Marathon great again. That's it. Well, he really wants me to be Barry Burton for Halloween, and he really wants to see me play Corpse Killer during the Halloween event. You can do both of those things. For example, you can nominate games for the Halloween event by typing exclamation point marathon in the stream chat right now. You can vote for the costume by typing exclamation point costume. Cheers and thank you for the cheer, sir. Morningstar 2126 just did a 200-bit cheer and said, me and my friend have been watching your content since 2012. I discovered your channel, of course, through This Is How You Don't Play videos, which led to us watching your real videos. Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. There was one point many years ago where I was an idiot, and I thought that stuff was bad. In my opinion, I don't care if you make fun of my gameplay at all. I just don't give a shit. I really don't. I don't think that it's malicious. to the point where it hurts me for someone to watch a montage of my content on someone else's channel. A lot of people have told me over the years they saw those compilations, and then they actually come over to the streams of the videos, and then they like the stuff, and they watch live. Here's an example. Morningstar just cheered. Thank you for the support, Morningstar. All right? Where I think it goes too far is obviously the people who are saying personal insults, conspiracy theories, and just wild nonsense about me that has nothing to do with my content that I put out on stream. But we won't go there. All right? So thank you, Morningstar, for the cheer. Sweaty Man JPEG did 100-bit cheers. As a professional software engineer for 10 years, I'll confirm you have to have some knowledge of coding to succeed in computer science programs. You need to have the mindset of a person who experiments with technology, tries things and breaks them, then fixes them. Right. I went into college with the being explained to that we have entry-level computer science programs here, where you don't need to have any prerequisite knowledge of computer science. You can just come and, I mean, it was supposed to be Comp Sci 101, like the first intro class, intro to computer science. And he's teaching things that are advanced computer science, and you need to have prerequisite knowledge. And I'm like, what am I even paying for school for? If I have to go learn coding before I take the intro course to coding, then why am I going to college? What am I paying for? I'm wasting my own money and time because this motherfucker is so stupid. He's teaching advanced shit in the intro course. Archangel 007 resubscribed for 2 months in a row, 30 total. He said, my longest relationship lasted only 26 months. Well, it looks like your sub lasted longer than that, so thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Thanks a lot for the support. All right. Let's go. Let's continue. PW Dubs had 2 different questions that I chose. He actually asked a ton, but I chose 2 particular questions that I felt were pretty pertinent to today's show. So his first question is, do you think games that are released at the beginning of the year are easily forgotten about and overshadowed by other releases? For example, one of my favorite games of this year has been Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, and I feel that it is being forgotten about due to the likes of games like Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima. Yes, this happens all the time. Games that come out within the first 2 to 3 months of the year almost always get forgotten by the end of the year. It's silly, in my opinion. There have been years, like, for example, I remember when Resident Evil 5 came out. Now, admittedly, Resident Evil 5 was not perfect and had flaws, but it was a great game. And by the end of the year, like, no one was having it in their best of the year countdowns, and I'm like, what? It was an outstanding game. It really was, but it came out early in the year, and people forgot about it. Resident Evil 7 came out in January. Again, by the end of the year, it's like people don't remember January. Now, this year in particular is going to be a weird one. We had the pandemic, right? Yes, I remember Dragon Ball Z Kakarot came out in, what was it, like February? But I couldn't even tell you 3 games that came out from January to March. All I could tell you was, like, once the rush of games started coming out in the summer, then I remember. Like, I remember Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima. I can't really remember any games. Like, I guess Doom Eternal, right? Was it April? But outside of that, I couldn't even tell you. This year has been so screwed up, time-wise for releases, that I would almost guarantee you by the end of the year, we will not remember half the games that we played the first half of the year. The other thing that's really weird to me, you got the Game of the Year awards, right? And even though we all agree they're not official, it's nice that Jeff Keighley every year sits down with always people from all different walks of gaming life. You got people who are game devs, you got people who are people who are in the media, and they sit down, they vote on the best games of the year. They never allow games that come out in December to be part of the Game Awards. You ever notice that? The Game Awards, there's some games that some years have come out in December that are great, and they never even consider them as, like, Game of the Year contender, and it blows my mind, because it's like, just because it came out a couple weeks before your award show doesn't mean it didn't come out in 2020, and doesn't mean it should be forgotten. But that always tends to happen. So anyway, yeah, it's definitely a thing, okay? Now, PWW, that's another question. Do you find it hard to balance playing games and interacting with chat sometimes? I don't have that complaint, but I have seen other chat members complain. My opinion of this is that it's stressful enough. Having to live stream games and interacting with every message is impossible. Very true. Listen, I've been doing this interactive style live streaming now for 3.5 years, okay? And what I can tell you is definitely has its pitfalls, but it has its very positive moments as well. There have been really awesome times when I'm playing a game and you guys give me either a piece of aid that allows me to do something in the game that normally I never would be able to do, or you add something to the lore of a game that I don't understand because it's not apparently clear from what's going on in the game just from the game itself. And I'm like, wow, really? That's a revelation, and that actually makes the enjoyment even better. I love seeing your live reactions to what I'm doing. When something happens in a game, I get to see a laugh at it live, or you know what I mean? That's really cool. That's really neat. And the interaction that we have, having conversations during games that otherwise maybe wouldn't be the most riveting. Minecraft, Morrowind, Animal Crossing, just a few that come to mind from this year. These are playthroughs that never would have worked with my old style of gameplay. They worked now because of the interactive streams, okay? At the very same time, you got to understand that there's no way that I can interact with every person on a stream. There may be people who absolutely want a certain question answered or absolutely want to talk to me about a certain topic, and it's just not going to happen. I'm streaming right now, probably, I don't know, because I don't look at viewer count. I would guarantee you there's probably about 300 people on the stream right now. Roughly, I'm just guessing, estimating. I can't interact with every one of those. If every person had a question, how do I answer 300 questions, right? Right now, we got a stream chat that's running, and I glance at it every once in a while. It's very hard for me to scan everyone's comment and see if someone's trying to talk to me or have a question. If you tag me in the stream chat, I'll see it at a higher capacity. Obviously, if you contribute via cheering, subbing, or tipping, those contributions gets put into a separate queue that I look at here. It's my Streamlabs queue. And that queue I actually read directly because I want to give shout outs for contributions. So that gives an increased chance that I can see what you're saying. But there's no guarantee. And the other thing is this. Some people don't realize that sometimes when I'm doing a certain type of stream, I don't want to derail the stream. For example, I'm playing Super Mario Galaxy. We're in the middle of a difficult purple star run, trying to get all the purple stars on a stage. Someone tags me 10 times in the stream chat, trying to ask me a question that has absolutely nothing to do with anything we're doing today. Chances are I'm going to ignore it. That just keeps the stream flowing. If I completely say, okay, hold on, pause, and I put down the controller. Now I'm going to sit here and do a 10-minute answer to your question before I pick the controller back up. That's derailment of the stream. There's a time and a place for that. The pre-stream is the right place for giant lengthy questions where you want an elaborate answer. Ask the King is the perfect opportunity for that. During a random gameplay session is not. If I'm playing a chill game where the gameplay isn't so riveting or time-consuming or attention-grabbing that, yeah, we could take time out to do a question like that, that's different. But in general, if I'm doing an action-packed stream, a game that's very difficult or needs challenge or needs a lot of attention, I'm not going to answer every question, you see? And so what happens is sometimes people will come here and they'll want to get, they'll have an agenda. I have a question I need answered by Phil today. And then they get upset because I'm not paying attention to it, you know. The other thing is sometimes you'll get a troll tip. You'll get a troll cheer. And that's something that maybe is insulting to me or my family, or it's a detractor meme that I know I don't want to acknowledge on the stream. And then people somehow will say, oh, see, Phil's ignoring people. He doesn't pay attention to his fans. No, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for 3.5 years now. And I feel that, you know, I'm getting better at it. I'm certainly not perfect at it, but I'm getting better at it. And I'm getting better at juggling those kind of situations, trying not to take bait when people are trying to bait me into stupid conversations or certain topics that are controversial, trying not to just let people bring up detractor memes constantly that are going to derail the stream. You know, I'm doing my best. Again, I'm not flawless, and I'm trying to do better. I am. Every day when I do a stream, I try to improve, and I try to do better in some way. I hope you guys understand that I know that I'm not perfect, and I'm trying to improve, but, you know, it's hard. There's people who want interaction, and I can't give every single person the interaction that they crave when there's hundreds of people on a stream. It's just not possible. However, what I would like to say is I feel that my streams are at a good level that when people do really want interaction, they get it. If you really need my attention, you got a question you want answered, you could contribute via a method that'll put that into my queue at Streamlabs, and you know I'm going to probably address it, right? So at least I haven't grown to the point where it's just uncontrollable. People are constantly just, and there's just so much white noise that there's no way I could even pull out a question to answer. You know what I mean? It is manageable, and I'm happy about that. I'm happy that I have this personal interactions with you guys. I feel like I have we have a back and forth versus it's not just me talking out to an abyss of a bajillion thousand people out there watching. You know, I honestly don't know if I were someone who was a big streamer like these Dr. Disrespects and Ninjas. I don't know if I would like that. I think I might actually hate it. I might hate my job. Because not being able to have that personal interaction kind of sucks. Being honest here. That's part of the big enjoyment that I get out of every day, having a real conversation with some of you. And if I couldn't do that, I don't know if I would really enjoy my job. So maybe things happen for a reason. Maybe the fact that I didn't become a sissy screamer at horror games 10 years ago, the fact that I didn't adopt every viral popular thing that people did on YouTube, maybe it all happened for a reason so that I could get to where I am today and actually have what I consider meaningful streams. I don't know. Who knows? All right, let's continue on. Derek had a question, and he asked the following. Back in the last decade, the early 2010s, how did you manage to juggle playing so many video game releases that came out on release day? Was it that you really wanted to play all those games and you were interested in all of them? You want to be the first person to check them out and get that footage up on YouTube? Or did it have something to do with your gaming schedule and calendar? Like, how did you discern what games you wanted to play, and how did you handle juggling so many games? Derek is correct. Back when I used to be exclusively a YouTuber, not a live streamer, I was not doing direct capture, I was not live streaming at all, I played more games. If you actually go back to that period and you look at the amount of footage that I was putting out, of course you could argue, well, it's way more videos because I was only doing 10-minute long videos back then. That's fair enough. But if you just look at the sheer number of gameplay, the amount of gameplay I was putting out in a day, it was way more than what I was doing right now, okay? Being honest. Some days, I would start playing in the early afternoon, and I would play till 8 at night, take a break to eat, come back and play for another 3-4 hours. So you're talking, what? That's like 12 hours of gameplay in a day. I don't do nearly that now. Now, what do I do? At most 6, right? I mean, the exception would have been the Rageathon where I was actually streaming for 12 hours. But, you know, the thing is, it was a very, very different world back then. 10 years ago, YouTube was a very different place than it is today. The whole gaming culture was different than it is today. Back then, there was no advanced copies that went out to content creators or influencers. All right? Everyone was the same. You had to line up at GameStop or whatever your respective game store was to get the game just like everyone else. You would get it at the same time as everyone else. Midnight releases, many of them I attended to get the game as early as possible. And then it would be a mad dash to get home and be the first person to play that game and get footage of it out on YouTube because that was the business back then. Okay? Who can get the playthrough up first? That was a big thing. And there were some people who would actually break the rules and steal games. I'm serious. There was one particular YouTuber who I hated. I don't know if he's still around today. But he was infamously known as a guy who had contacts who would steal games behind the scenes. He was someone who worked for GameStop or worked for Best Buy, and they would provide the games to him a week early, and he would play them on YouTube a week early, and sometimes he'd get copyright issues because of that, because he was basically a scumbag. He was breaking the law so he could get the games early and get all the views. But I was just like you guys. I would line up in line and get as many games as I could at launch, and I didn't care what kind of game it was. If it was a fighting game, a shooter game, a racing game, an RPG, whatever it was, I would try to play it. As long as it was known as a release that was going to get some kind of a following, I would play it. A lot of the times, because I was the YouTuber who got gameplay up of a game first, I would actually give exposure to a game that it normally wouldn't have gotten if it wasn't for me, which was cool. People told me, thousands of people would tell me, man, I didn't know what this game was, and I went and bought it because I saw your playthrough on launch day, and thanks so much for that, okay? But admittedly, doing the offline video recording and no live streaming was a very different life experience. Let's talk. First of all, I was a single back then. I was a bachelor, living in a bachelor pad in Connecticut. I didn't have any life responsibilities except going to work during the day. And then, of course, when I lost my job in late 2010 and I became my full-time job to do this, now I had no responsibilities but just recording all day, right? So it was just complete free time. At all times, it was free time for me. And so I would play every game, and I would record a ridiculous amount. My schedule was so messed up. I would basically play to the wee hours in the morning. Some days, like, drinking profusely. I'm being honest with you guys. I told you about this, that I had a past for substance abuse where I was drinking way too much. And some nights I would just drink. That's why you would see those drunken videos that I would put out on YouTube. Drunken Fallout 3 and late night drunken playthrough at release day and stuff like that. Okay? I would drink and play. I would upload, go to sleep. Sleep way into the afternoon, some days getting up at like 1, 2 in the afternoon, and then immediately start playing games. Play from games from like 2 in the afternoon to like 7 at night, upload that footage, go get fast food, wolf food down, get right back to playing. So like 8 to like 2 in the morning, I'm playing more and put more footage out. So maybe I would play 2 games a day. I would get 5 hours of gameplay of each game out, right? And then within a week, I've beaten them because the games are, 10, 15 hours long. So within 2-3 days, I've beaten 2 games, full playthroughs, bam, on YouTube. Go trade those fucking games in, get half my money back, get new games, wash, rinse, repeat, all right? But the content was very different than how it was now. First of all, I had no life. I didn't have a family, nothing. It was just games. That was my lifestyle back then. Very different from now and much less enjoyable, let me tell you. I had no interaction with my audience. The only interaction I had with you guys was maybe a little bit on Twitter or reading comments on videos. That was it. There was no social interaction to get direct feedback about anything. So I never really knew how I was doing. I had to judge it based on YouTube views. Okay? it was a very unhealthy lifestyle. Let's be honest here. You know, the sleep schedule was terrible. I was drinking all the time. I was eating unhealthy food constantly. It was a very, very unhealthy schedule. I wouldn't be surprised if the year of late 2010, when I first started doing this for a job because I lost my office job, through like 2013, I wouldn't be surprised if those 2 to 3 years took 10, 15 years off my life for the way that I was living. It was just not good, okay? It wasn't until I basically moved here in 2014 that I kind of got my life back together. And honestly, it wasn't until Kat moved in with me that I finally got on a really better schedule, a more normal human fucking schedule of not being up till the wee hours of the morning, right? And not waking up late afternoons. I had to get back to a normal life schedule. And it took a while, but I did. I'm back on a normal life schedule now, which is good. But anyway, getting back to Derek's question, I was just playing every game possible. I didn't care about the quality of the playthrough. It was just getting the playthrough out. So, like I said, I would rush through games that have, if you played them and took your time, you could get 20 hours, and I'd beat them in 8 hours and put the playthrough out, done, next game. That's how I treated it. And a lot of people back then gave me very valid criticism and said, Phil, you turbo through games. You don't take your time at all, so you miss out on most of the content. And then you actually have the balls to review the game, even though you didn't even play entire modes. And those people were correct. I was rushing content out to be the first guy on YouTube to get it out so I could get those cheap day one views and make the money and then move on to the next game. It wasn't about the quality of the playthrough, the enjoyment of the game. It was just about putting out the content. And over the years, I have definitely changed to now be more about having a fun play. Look at this. Look at my Super Mario Galaxy playthrough from 8 years ago versus this one now, right? Complete night and day. Now, I took my time, I looked for every secret star, completed every challenge, saw every optional piece of content, and enjoyed the game thoroughly because I took my time. Back then, it was rush, 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 beat, beat, beat. You see, it's just so different. It's just so different. And here's the thing. Over the years, things have changed anyway. Even if I still wanted to be Mr. Day One Views, I couldn't be. Because now, sadly, there is this established group of golden content creators. People who, Microsoft, Sony, Bethesda, Activision, the big companies have rubber stamped. These are the big guys that they want to be known as the people to promote their games. They're not content creators like me. They're not gamers or content creators. They're influencers. And those people get the fucking games early. They play them a week to 2 weeks early. No one else is allowed to do so. Only them. So they get to put gameplay and content, sometimes entire playthroughs of these games up so early. There's no way a guy like me, who's just an honest guy, not trying to fucking, do a paid advertisement, but actually play a game for what it is at face value, there's no way that I could hang in that kind of content creation like I used to. It's just not possible. The whole game has changed from the ground up. The companies who make the games now have marketing departments that reach out to the influencers to give them the content first. So they will always be the golden kids who get to put out the content first, while someone like me who's busted his ass for 12 years, I have to just be just like you, line up and get the games just like you, get them digitally just like you, paying for everything that I do, and I'm okay with that. That's what I stand for. But it was very different 10 years ago when everyone was on a level playing field and there weren't these elitist selected content creators and influencers who got everything early. It was all about being the person to get it first and put the content out, quality content, right away. But let's be honest, that doesn't really go in line with my current philosophy anymore. It just doesn't. If I were able to get the games at launch today or earlier than launch, I wouldn't do that kind of content that I did back then. I wouldn't rush out the playthrough. I'd be taking my time and doing playthroughs that are interactive with you guys. So it's still different. I've evolved over the years. I wouldn't be doing the kind of content that I did back then. But back then it was whatever game was AAA and everyone knows about it, I got to play it. I don't even care what game it is or whatever, and I'm going to rush through it, get the playthrough, go to the next. That was my attitude back then. Very, very different from how I determine things out. Now it's, would this be a game that, number one, I'm going to enjoy? Number two, the viewing audience will enjoy. Number three, a game that will make a good interactive playthrough for streams. There's all these factors now that I have to play in. If I'm going to play a JRPG, is this going to be a JRPG that I can beat within 2 months or 10 months? You see? Fire Emblem, as much as people wanted to see it, not a great game for streaming. Just being honest here. Too drawn out, too lengthy, and people lose interest. I did it because it was a viewer's choice playthrough, but you see, I have to weigh and balance these things now versus back then it was just rush through everything. Who cares, right? Different attitude, different situations. Okay. The next question is from Muba. This is a funny one, all right? This one, I got a laugh out of it, so I'm just going to be honest here. Muba asked the following question. What are your thoughts on the facts that detractors get less than a quarter of viewers and contributions when they do not stream content related to you? And he actually linked Almighty Tevin streaming on YouTube, playing a game for himself, because I wasn't streaming at the time, playing a game for himself, only has 150 viewers, and no one's contributing to his stream. Okay? Now, flip side of that, Tevin restreams me, gets, 6, 7, 800 viewers, and people are tossing the money left and right. Right? Okay. Here's the truth. The content that they put out is lampooning style content. It's content that is reliant on someone like me to be putting out content because they cannot do things for themselves. They are known as critiques or lampooners. They could not put out original content that people will want to watch. That's not what they do. Now, I'm not saying that there's not any kind of entertainment value to making fun of someone or lampooning someone. What I'm saying is they're riding my coattails. If I don't exist, they don't exist. So that's why when we get people who are trying to take me down with false DMCA claims and shit like that, I know that's not them. Those guys rely on me to be here consistently putting out content, so they have content to put out. If I don't exist, they don't exist. I know they would never be the person to try to hit me with a false DMCA claim, and I would hope that their viewers would also be smart enough to understand that when you're trying to ruin my business, you're ruining things for everyone, not just me, but everyone around. Anything that I do gets it ruined if I can't put out my content anymore, But the problem here is where does it end, right? Where's the extent of what happens and where does it end? Could it be that someone who watches that kind of negative lampooning style content thinks that they should take it upon themselves to end me and end my presence on the internet because I'm an evil person because someone tells them that much every time that they lampoon me? I don't know. I don't know who these people are. Who the fuck is the person giving me the false DMCA claims and the fake tips every day? I don't even know who they are, so I can't answer to that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know these people. They're crazy in the head. But anyway, what's my feeling on these people who cannot put out entertainment content for themselves, but they rely on me? It's very simple. Their viewing audience is my viewing audience. It's true. Tevin only exists because of me. He never would have been known on the internet if he never made fun of me. All right? And quite frankly, it's nice that he has entertainment value enough for his viewership, that he makes money doing it. Fine. But understand that you only exist because of me. So you better be fucking grateful, And the thing is, I've already said outright, I'm never, ever going to take down one of those streams. You're never going to see me putting out copyright claims against people. I don't play that game. I'm not. That's stupid as hell. It's such semantics to say that one thing's legal and one thing's not. I'm not going to do that shit. So if you ever see, someone's stream got taken down by Darkside Phil, I didn't do that. I've never done that ever, and I never will. All right? But at the same time, I would hope that you understand that this whole thing is a great joke, right? You're going to make fun of me, it's a joke. You make money out, you should be grateful that you're making money off of making fun of me, right? And don't take it too far. When you make personal insults about my family members and about things that go way too fucking far past the level of just the content I'm putting out, that's when you've crossed the line and you've become a scumbag. All right? So if you like that content because it makes fun of me and the stupid things I do on stream, fine, fair enough. But if you like that content because someone takes personal digs at my wife or personal information about us that's not public on the internet, or not public on my streams, but they dig it up somewhere on the internet and it's not for anyone's fucking business, if you're making fun of my parents and shit, you're scum. You're literal scum. And everyone who's ever done that is scum. That's an immoral person who thinks that anything's fair game, even people who aren't putting themselves out there to be made fun of. You want to make fun of me? Go ahead. I put myself out here every single day on my stream, right? But if you want to start doing personal insults behind the scenes to people that aren't involved, you're a piece of shit. You are. You're just an immoral, worthless piece of garbage, and this planet would probably be better without people like you. Being honest, people would be able to actually just put out positive stuff and not have toxic, attacking individuals being nasty and doing fucked up stuff to them behind the scenes all the time. All right? So understand that. All right? There's a line and there's a limit to all of this kind of content. Personally, I know that someone like Tevin or these other people who restream me will not be able to put out original content. They just can't. They are a lampooner style of comedian. But that comedy is valid. I'm not here to tell you that comedy isn't valid. There's people who do it outside of internet-based stuff. It's perfectly valid. But You just can't take it to that next level. And I tell you, Tevin has taken it to the next level many, many times over the years because he's a hack in that regard. If there's not something going on my stream for him to make fun of directly because I fucked up or I did something stupid, he has to go to that lowest blow, that low common denominator, because he's a hack. There are people out there who don't have to do that, and those are the people who are truly talented at that kind of comedy. Okay? But yeah, it's hilarious. These people try to do their own crap. No one watches it. No one is watching that stream for that person. They're watching it for that person to make fun of me. If I didn't exist, they don't exist. There you go. Snakefish Gaming. Actually, we're going to do one more question and take a break. Snakefish Gaming says, Phil, what would you say is your favorite genre of game? I enjoy when you're playing classic Final Fantasy games and you really seem to enjoy them. I love the streams and keep on keeping on. I would say fighting games, but I mean old school style fighting games, JRPGs, classic platformers, and probably like that more purist form of FPS game, like around the Unreal Tournament, early Modern Warfare era. Those are the ones I like. Okay, those are my favorite genres. Now, I'm not saying I don't like other genres of games, but sports, puzzle, racing, kind of third-person shooter, I would go for a JRPG, a traditional fighting game, a platformer, that kind of stuff I would go for before those other types of games. That's just my personal preference. Okay. One shout out to Shewy701, who did 100-bit cheers. Says, what's your opinion about age of digital games and subscription services? It's bound to happen. It's going to happen. Everything's going to go digital. All right. You're going to have a slow transition. Right now, I think this is the console generation where it's going to happen. You're going to have people who are going to basically ditch the physical copies, but it's going to be a slow. I mean, we'll talk about this because actually there's a question about it. But people were finding that actually, when it came to PS5 pre-orders, way more people wanted to pre-order the disc PS5 than the non-disc PS5. And if there was truly a purely digital movement right now, why would that be? Especially because it's cheaper, right? I think people are still skeptical for various reasons to abandon physical media at this point. But I definitely see this console generation being maybe the last generation where people are going to be putting out the physical discs. The logistics of it, it's too expensive. It takes too long. To get the discs out to the stores is a pain in the ass. And you don't need them. There's no reason to have a physical disc because when you get that, it's not even the real game. That's an unfinished version of the game because as soon as you pop it into your console, it needs to download the day one patch that makes it the complete version of the game. So there's no reason even having the disc. But I think people are just slow to adapt and change to it. Okay? Okay. It's time for our first break. Thank you so... Oh, by the way, hold on. I got a $10 tip from Fiddle Griddle, who says, do I have children use this on dinner? I don't have any children, and I will use this for dinner. Thank you for the $10 tip, Fiddle Griddle. All right. So it's time for our first break. For those of you who are watching on Twitch, just stick around. After about, 15 minutes, I'll take a quick 15-minute break to use the restroom, maybe grab a quick snack, and then I'll come back. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, there'll be a separate part for part 2. All right, so thanks so far, guys. I'll see you after the break.